Ladies and gentlemen, the Raiders shocked the world and beat the Chiefs by 2 possessions in the first quarter and a half. After that, the game went as usual for us fans. An embarrassing collapse and then a loss. Owner Mark Davis had a private chat with interim head coach Antonio Pierce after the game. And Marcus Peters had an altercation with the coach on the sideline after suddenly being benched. Now we have learned that Peters has been officially released by the Raiders. More on this later. Max Crosby was in the hospital all week, but managed to leave it in order to get at least 1 sack on Patrick Mahomes. What is the future for Davante Adams on the Raiders? What is the future for interim head coach Antonio Pierce and rookie quarterback Aiden O'Connell? All of that and more will be discussed, so make sure you subscribe to this channel so you do not miss the next video. This football season, I lost a lot of weight. It's pretty much because I started eating more meat and protein. The best place to easily access high quality meat cuts, in my experience, is our partner for this video, Good Chop. My personal favorite dinner is the 100% grass-fed beef ribeye with no hormones or antibiotics, no artificial preservatives. It's only the good stuff. I love grass-fed beef so much. Good Chop offers contact-free delivery and only sources meat from the USA. By choosing Good Chop, you do support independent ranchers and local family farms. Just so you never get bored, Good Chop has over 60 cuts of poultry, beef, wild-caught salmon, 100% grass-fed filet mignon, bacon, pork, you name it, they got it. I really did lose a lot of weight just by eating a ton of meat and not eating too many carbs, and Good Chop I think could help a lot of people delivering that great meat right to your door. So go to goodchop.com/YouTube and use code WiFi120 or click the link in the caption below to get $120 off your first 4 boxes today. One more time, goodchop.com/YouTube, promo code WiFi120. Get your meat today. Well, there was some odd behavior at this Chiefs game at Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas. You had a fan here, a Chiefs fan, in the fourth quarter. This was spotted on the broadcast, seems to be in blackface. Maybe there's some more to the story that I'm missing here, but I'm surprised that people aren't criticizing this Chiefs fan all on television. Halloween was over a long time ago, bro. And let's flash back to this Raiders fan against the Patriots in Allegiant Stadium last year. This woman was called a Karen. She was called a racist because she was getting in the face of this Patriots fan who was just trying to watch the game in his Tom Brady jersey. This led to this fan becoming a hero, sitting next to Robert Kraft in the game, and even got free tickets and a hotel from the Raiders themselves and the president, Sandra Douglas Morgan. So maybe some Raiders fans could get some free tickets for having to sit next to this guy. Many fans like myself were frustrated that the Chiefs get that favoritism from the referees, and you gotta expect that when you got a superstar quarterback like Mr. Patty Mahomes. By the way, where's Jackson Mahomes? We haven't seen that guy in a long time. But I thought this was hilarious. Snead on Adams, hugging him. Davante Adams looked upset during the game, felt like he was being grabbed a bunch. But in my opinion, this was no excuse. The Raiders really fell apart in the second half, regardless of penalties. The defense gave up too many points. The defense looked like they could not keep up. And the offense ultimately only scored 3 points in the second half. Unacceptable. There were some setbacks for the defense, and that was mainly Max Crosby being doubtful and then becoming active during the game. He was actually the first player in the 2023 season to be doubtful and then eventually play that game.
Had some real issues going on. Was in the hospital, all type of shit. Yeah, it was tough, but found a way.
The main issue for Crosby now getting healthy during the bye is his knee, and this is not looking good for the Raiders and Max Crosby. Yeah, we know he had the infections that he was battling. That's why he was in the hospital. But apparently this knee is a big deal, and on the broadcast, they said he will need surgery in the offseason for this knee.
His knee will need some kind of attention, he told us, after the season, so it must be bad.
Fortunately, Max Crosby was obviously able to still ball out, but even when he got that sack on Mahomes, he looked like he was stumbling a little bit, and I felt like this guy could have had a monster game if he was healthy, if this was just a few weeks ago, but it seems like some injuries are really catching up to Max Crosby right now. And there was some frustration from Davante Adams during the game. Obviously, nobody likes losing. The question is this guy unhappy? We know there were some rumors and reports just a few weeks ago saying the Jets will stop at nothing to acquire Davante Adams. Who knows if this guy's already looking to the future now that he's rolling with a rookie quarterback and an interim head coach? But it seems like even though McDaniels is no longer there, the same problem happened where you got a 14-point lead and you somehow blow it.
It is frustrating. It's confusing too, and yeah, I don't really know what to say or exactly why it went the way it did, but we just couldn't figure it out in the second half.
I still believe the Raiders did shoot themselves in the foot, and I still believe they could have beaten the Chiefs, and maybe they'll beat him again later in the season. And it seems like Amik Robertson believes the same thing, saying that we're better than that team. We got more dogs.
Because I know we better than that team. I know we got more dogs. I know we better than that team. So I'm just pissed off that we couldn't put out the win. We put the work in. We know that we better than that team.
And I absolutely love this coming from Amik Robertson. I don't know if he was talking about we're better than that team, talking about the product that the Raiders put out there, that team, or if he was explicitly talking about the Chiefs. Either way, I hope he was talking about the Chiefs because I love the smack talk. Hunter Renfrow doesn't have answers as to what the Raiders need to do to move forward to have some success this year, but the Raiders are 5-7, and he's looking back to that 2021 season with interim head coach Rich Bisaccia, and Hunter Renfrow thinks there's still a chance for the Raiders.
7, and there's nothing against us winning 5 in a row and sneaking into the playoffs, and that's kind of the goal. And
I think even though the Raiders lost this game, even though the Raiders struggled on third down in the second half, and Aiden O'Connell did have some bad throws, did have some grounders, even though there were some receivers wide open, he still ended the day with the best passer rating in Week 12 in the NFL. The guy had some pretty good numbers. I'm not going to sit here and act like the guy was absolutely amazing, but 23 for 33, 248 yards. Yeah, Mahomes had a couple more yards than you. Mahomes had a touchdown more than you. But you didn't throw a pick. You didn't commit turnovers. And ultimately, you're a 4th-round pick, which is a bargain for a quarterback. I still believe the Raiders need to find a way to make this guy work because we've seen people spend big money on quarterbacks lately and it just does not always pan out. It seems like it is possible over time that Aiden O'Connell will be a bona fide starting quarterback in the NFL if you want a pocket passer. Mark Davis was back at the game looking serious in Allegiant Stadium, firing some guys, paying off some bills, still showing a smile at the end of it. And the question is, what is Mark Davis going to do right now? And I think we're figuring out very quickly that Antonio Pierce might not exactly be in the future of Mark Davis's plans. You had Vic Tafur of The Athletic noting that Aiden O'Connell has been going out there to the presser first before the head coach. You do not always see that. It's always the head coach first, then the quarterback at the post-game presser. The reason why interim head coach Antonio Pierce is coming out second is because he's meeting with Mark Davis after the game. He met with him last week and he met with him this week as well. Is Mark Davis giving him positive feedback? What is Mark Davis telling this guy? We do not know for sure, but when I watched this game, I just started thinking about Andy Reid versus Antonio Pierce. Is that ever going to be in the Raiders' favor? Sure, Pierce can be a good motivator, but you can't downplay all that experience and time that people have being a head coach in the NFL. There is a reason why these guys get paid big money, and it seemed like Antonio Pierce at times was in over his head. We've seen some indecisiveness by Antonio Pierce on whether or not he wants to play aggressive, and we've also seen him make some weird challenges, do some weird clock management with his timeouts. And I just wonder if some of the Raiders players, if some of the people on the Raiders organization, do they really want to waste time and wait for him to learn how to become a head coach and wait for Aiden O'Connell to learn how to become a starting quarterback? Time will tell. But ultimately, interim head coach Antonio Pierce is making big moves as a head coach, benching Marcus Peters during the game, and this was quite odd. You had Marcus Peters by himself, by his lonesome during the game after he was taken out. He did not look too happy. You also had video right here of interim head coach Antonio Pierce talking to Marcus Peters, and they did not seem too happy together. They seemed like there was some shouting going on. Peters looked a little angry, and that's when he started sitting by himself. And we know the reason is because Peters has struggled tremendously with tackling. It's gotten old at this point. We know that's never been his strong suit. He's a coverage corner, not a big-time tackler, a guy you want to see get a lot of interceptions. But ultimately, Peters has been struggling for a long time. Even while Josh McDaniels was the head coach of the Raiders, they considered cutting him earlier this season. This was reported by The Athletic and Vic Tafur just today. When you think about it, Marcus Peters almost signed with the Raiders last offseason, then he didn't, then he shopped around and ultimately ended up signing with the Raiders again, and he only had a $3 million deal. So it seems like even other people around the NFL are not begging for Marcus Peters' services. And that is why breaking news has occurred. During the bye week, the Raiders have officially released Marcus Peters. Will he find another team, even though he struggled to find another team just this past offseason? And isn't it just so ironic? The team that drafted Marcus Peters, the Kansas City Chiefs, well, he ended up being released by the Raiders after being benched against the Kansas City Chiefs. Isn't it so crazy that these stories turned out this way? It's almost like the perfect script. But ultimately, this move does save the Raiders some cash, and you're going to have Jack Jones, the man who worked with Antonio Pierce for some time, get some more reps and likely be in the starting lineup with Amik Robertson and Nate Haas. After making the coach's decision to get rid of Marcus Peters, interim head coach Antonio Pierce announced the release of safety Roderick Teamer, who was arrested on DUI charges Saturday night right before the Chiefs game. Teamer was previously suspended in 2020 for 4 games for violating the league's substance abuse policy. He was on IR and activated after playing 6 games this season. And when he was arrested for driving under the influence, he was also speeding, and these are both misdemeanors. Interim head coach Antonio Pierce said on Monday that whatever you do off the field affects the decisions that are going to be made in this building, and we're going to do our best to protect the brand, the shield, and the Raiders organization. Obviously, this is a PR nightmare. We've had tons of players have problems in Vegas, like Damon Arnett. You've even had Alvin Kamara of the Saints have some issues in Vegas. So it was a no-brainer that just a special teams player was going to be released after making this mistake. The Raiders are 5-7 right now. Hunter Renfrow is right. If they win every game, they will go 10-7, but they got to play the Broncos, who are getting hot on a 5-game win streak. They got to play the Chiefs again, and then the Chargers, who can catch you slipping, along with the Vikings after the bye, and then they got to play the Colts at some point. Let me know in the comments what you think has happened. Will Antonio Pierce earn a full-time role? Can he win it out? Should Aiden O'Connell be the future quarterback? Or maybe the offense is struggling because they got a play caller who's barely doing it at the NFL level for the first time, and Bo Hart agree. Let me know your thoughts and subscribe to this channel for more content from me. Peace out, and I hope you have a good one.